Joining me on the show today is undefeated LFA flyweight contender, Mr. Dan Moriarty. Dan, you are a fucking savage. Thank you for being on my show, man. I have been really looking forward to this one for quite some time.
Hell yeah, man. Me too. I've followed actually. I've seen a lot of your episodes and stuff. And what I like about you is you give the guys that are just coming up, you give them a chance to shine and kind of tell their story. Because a lot of times with media, you just hear about the guys that are up there and they're being covered by the media and they're already in the UFC, and it's great to hear about guys like that. But it's cool to hear about the guys that are 2, 3 pro fights in, and you're already, they're already getting that experience of someone like you interviewing us. So,
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And it'll be really cool. It's like a time capsule of sorts because how many people are going to watch this 2 years from now when you have an opportunity to be in the
hell
UFC,
yeah.
when you are making your debut on Contender Series or on one of the numbered events? Who knows what's going to happen? And that's what's
Right.
really cool about it. We're planting the seeds today. Dan, you are from St. Louis. I know a little bit about St. Louis. Can't claim to have spent a whole lot of time there. But one thing's first, I got to ask, and don't bullshit me. Tyron Woodley, have you guys like taken away his St. Louis passport? Is he banned from St. Louis? Like, I
Dude,
have to
so
ask.
that's so funny because Tyron was actually my first real MMA coach like ever. I trained under him for 3 years. It was the first gym that I ever went to. I mean, I've trained with my dad my whole life. My dad's been training fighters before it was even cool, but
Mm-hmm.
he wanted me to go out and see what was out there and go train with some other guys. And Tyron's was the first gym that I saw, like a big picture of him on the front with his Strike Force gloves. I was like, oh, that place looks cool. But I trained with him for like 3 years, 4 years, and met a lot of good guys through it. Like saw a lot of high level fighters and all that stuff. But when he got in the UFC, man, like he was never in the gym, which understandable. That's fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff happened between that, between coaches that we had. We didn't really have quality instruction or anything. The gym was kind of going to shit a little bit, but I think his biggest plan was to have a gym that he could train at,
Yeah.
and then he would teach classes and do whatever. He was a great coach back then. I mean, he was great. I really think he was, but it was just kind of one of those things where I had to focus on like myself and go somewhere where I was going to get better. But man, when I saw that they were fighting each other, I was the first guy to tell you that Jake was going to get knocked the fuck out. I mean, I've sparred Tyron for multiple times, and I mean the dude is so fast when he hit, and he hits really hard, and I just
Yeah.
assumed, I was like, oh dude, there's no fucking way. But with Jake, it's like what do you do with all that millions of dollars, and no, you don't have to do anything but train and get better with really good coaches. Like, you can get better really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So when
Yeah.
that happened, I man,
Well, you're not alone, man. I think a lot of people reacted the same way. This is a great opening question. So now we have the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, Anderson Silva, going up against him. What are your thoughts about the fight tonight?
oh man, I'm nervous. I was talking to one of my buddies, Sean, who I train with, and we were talking last night at the gym, and like, it's gonna hurt my soul if
Yeah.
Anderson gets knocked out. It's really sad, and everybody keeps saying now that they're like, oh, he got knocked out twice, and in training camp, and he's gonna get knocked out again. But how many times has Anderson said that he's hurt or he's gonna have a bad weight cut or whatever, and then does really well? I think it's just mental games to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just fucking with them, and he's doing his normal thing. But I hope that he doesn't get fucking knocked out. That's gonna be sad.
So I have an asshole thing to say. It's really fucked up, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it
It's
because
okay.
I'm just it is what it is. I'm curious what kind of testing protocols are being done for this fight, and I'm just like, and if that's not a thing, if we're kind of looking the other way, we'll see.
Juiced up Anderson.
I,
Yeah.
I, it's or juiced up Jake Paul. I mean, that's another possibility too. I mean, I look at Jake Paul and he looks like a fighter to me. Like he looks like a boxer type to me. I mean, he's fucking jacked and he's a
Yeah.
big dude. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like,
Yeah.
I remember this kid like being like a skinny nerdy freaking dork. He doesn't look like that anymore. You know,
Oh yeah,
and I'm just like,
sure.
yeah, I get his full-time job's training, and he doesn't have the financial constraints or the resource constraints the rest of us have. But I also look at it, I'm just kind of like, what are we doing here behind the scenes? Are we peeing in any cups? Are we doing any of that?
Oh
Or
no way, man. There's no way that they are. I think they're probably both juiced up, and that's fine. I mean, look at Anderson, like his last fight in the UFC,
yeah.
and then look at him now. Like he looks
Yeah.
completely different.
I didn't want to be that guy to say
Oh
anything, but
no, he for sure.
but
He's
I'm
for
just
sure
looking at it.
juicing.
I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, he's almost 50 years old, and Anderson's like a tall kind of guy. He's like 6'2" or something like that. And he still has to make 186 pounds, and he's a big dude, so that's still quite a cut. Little TJ Dillashaw action going on.
Oh,
I
for
can't help
sure,
it, man. I can't help it. I'm
dude,
that
for
guy.
sure.
I'm that guy.
I'm that
So
guy too. I mean, like look at fucking Uriah Hall's on the card too. Uriah Hall looks built like, he looks way bigger than he did when he was fighting in the UFC and when he was under USADA. Like he's fighting a fucking football player. I mean, I just don't. I think the whole thing they're saying it's so good for boxing and it's whatever, but it kind of proves that boxing is kind of like a dead sport.
I
Like
think it is.
it,
I'm not. I think the matchups aren't really intriguing. It's like the equivalent of me and you fighting. Everyone knows who's going to win at the beginning of it. There's no intrigue. There's no drama. You look at some of these betting lines. It's like minus 3 million to
yeah.
like plus the population of Earth, and I'm just like, wow, like where's the intrigue? Like
Who the
there's
fuck wants
nothing.
to watch that? I mean, like
I don't.
I'll find a stream. I'll find a stream and watch it like that. But like I'm not gonna like the Jake Paul and Anderson fight for sure. But I'm not gonna pay $70 to watch
Yeah.
a football player fight an MMA fight. Like it's kind of crazy. They do have a couple of good boxing fights on there, but I mean, even then, like I don't know. I'm not a big boxing guy. I watched guys like Lomachenko or people like that.
Yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
fun fighters to watch. But like as far as boxing, I would rather watch like Glory. I watch Glory a lot. Stuff like that.
I
One
look at it.
championship.
I look at it this way. Like I understand it's a business, and I get it from Dana White's perspective. He's like, oh, these fucking streamers, and he's pissed off, right? But it's also you look at it, it's like you're asking people to pay $80 for this, and like there might be one card a year, two tops, where I'm like, I can see you paying that. Most of these, I'm just like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's a $30 card at most. Like you have
Oh
the like, come on, dude, you can't do that. So it's like,
yeah.
I would say this, like, I know it's not as easy because they have an agreement with ESPN and Disney and all that other bullshit, but it's like, if you want to stop piracy, there's a simple solution. It's just like, what is Fight Pass? $100 a year? Make it $150 a year. Put all your pay-per-view cards on Fight
100%.
Pass. And guess what? You jack it, and people are used to paying $100, and now it's like, hey, everything's gonna be on Fight Pass. People won't bitch, and people have it anyway, so they're just gonna be like, oh, okay, it is
Yeah.
what it is. Like, there you
Yep.
go. There's a simple solution right there.
You need to give them that idea or something, because that's smart. I would do
Hey,
that.
I would look at it this way. It's like you could either do that and at least get a little piece of that. You're talking about getting a $50 more profit, multiply that by however many Fight Pass subscribers you have, or people are just going to stream it for free and you get shit. You
Right.
choose, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you choose, right? So it's like streaming's here to stay. That's just the way it's going to be. Get with the times, or keep bitching about it. If
Right.
you had to like put your rent on the outcome of the fight tonight between Jake Paul and Anderson Silva, who would you pick and why?
Fuck, man. I'll go by because I love Anderson. I'll say Anderson by decision. And I think because yeah, you could look at Jake's 25 and the youth and everything like that, but like you can't that kind of experience that Anderson has. And if this was his first boxing fight, I'd probably go for Jake. But
Yeah.
seeing what he did to Julio Cesar Chavez, I mean, like he picked him apart. And Jake's different. Jake's younger, faster, more powerful, whatever. But I mean, all he's got is a right hand. He's just got a right hand. Anderson, how many guys has Anderson probably fought that, even before the UFC, that all they have is a right hand? And I think that's going to and you don't have to worry about someone like fucking flying kneeing you in the face, or like kicking you in the face. You just have to worry about that one right hand. That's it.
He has to worry about that first 2 minutes. That
First two.
first 2 minutes of the
Exactly.
fight where
Yep.
he is coming into it completely jacked up, ready to go. That's where like it's like, okay, be defensive, and hell, even give him that first round. It's like that's fine. Like he just
Oh
needs to
yeah.
get past that first round. He gets past
Anderson.
that, I think he'll
Yeah.
be okay.
Anderson's gonna give some rounds away. I know he will. He'll probably, dance around, do his thing, and like be really defensive. But I think probably in like the second and third rounds, he'll start opening up a little bit.
I agree.
He's obviously not gonna finish Jake. He doesn't have the. I don't think he
No.
has the knockout power to do that. But I think he'll fluster him enough to where he can land and score points and do whatever. I think he can win by decision. I that's what I'm hoping to God he can pull this off. Like it's not that I want it. I don't care that Jake's doing his thing. I think that's cool. If you have all that money and you're putting it all into fighting, doing something that's super hard, you're not like just, fucking girls and buying Ferraris every day. Like you're out there like training your ass off and working hard. That's great. But I don't want to see him beat, the MMA GOAT.
Yeah, none of us
Nobody
do.
wants to do that
Yeah,
shit.
any of us who have even like a remote interest in MMA, I think we're all going for Anderson Silva. It has nothing to do with, at least for me, has nothing to do with Jake Paul. I could give a shit less.
Right.
It's just one of those things that like, how am I supposed to like? You're asking me to like root against George Washington. How am I supposed to do that?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, even though most people, when Tyron fought Jake, most people were rooting for Jake in St. Louis, but like still, like I wanted him to win. I wanted him to win, but most people in St. Louis. And then when he got knocked out, oh my God, my Facebook was just like,
oh, I bet. Yeah, yeah. I think he just probably had to log off for a few
you
days.
did, you really did for a couple days. It was just the whole thing was crazy.
Dan, you are a really nice guy. Everyone that you fight wants to kick you in the balls. Why is that? Or knee you in the balls. Why is that,
Oh no,
man?
man! It just happens. I've had that happen in fights before, but that time, I mean, that was the weirdest fight I've probably ever had. Like the fact that it kept happening. Usually, like, I mean, I know I dropped him too with a ball shot with a knee, but whenever I did that, I stopped throwing the technique. Like after I stopped throwing knees on the fence at all because I was like, I'm not gonna get called again and get a point. But I mean, I don't think it was intentional. I think he just couldn't get me off him and he was getting frustrated and he was just wanted to hit me really hard with knees. And I think I'm a borderline midget, so it's good. And he is 5'10", so his knees are right next to my balls, unfortunately.
So so I let's run this one back and give the good people out there like a synopsis of what happened in case you're wondering what we're talking about. I'm talking about LFA 142. It was Dan's first pro fight, I should say, outside of St. Louis. I thought this was like going into this fight, it was like a pretty big fight for you. You're on a pretty big card.
Yeah.
And like you're out of your comfort zone, right? So it's like one of those things I like to see where it's like, okay, you're used to fighting in front of your hometown. Some guys actually do really good fighting in front of their hometown. Other guys, they wilt under the pressure, and getting out on the road is kind of better for them in a way. But for
Yeah.
you, when you were like going into that fight, I mean, you were preparing in the back room, you're getting ready to like make your walk for the first time. Is it like a different feeling mentally going outside, going into an arena where like 90 some odd percent of those people have no freaking clue who you are.
Yeah.
And the same could be said about your opponent because he's from Chicago. You're meeting in Minneapolis, which it's probably equidistant for both of you. Did it have
Yeah.
like a different feel about that particular fight compared to fighting back home?
100%. It was very weird. Usually I'm used to, in St. Louis, I'll go in the back and I know all the commissioners, I know the doctors, I know the cut man. They're all like, "What's up, man?" A lot of them started with my dad. I'm like the son, Dan's son, or whatever. So that's always been like that, and it's just what I'm used to. I fought out of town. I think only once as an amateur in Kansas City. So I knew what it felt like, but it was just weird because it was like you don't know anybody, and there's a lot of really good fighters there, and you don't know anybody. And when the amount of fights they had that night was insane. I think it was like 16. So you're just another fucking number to them. They don't, like they come downstairs and they're like, let's fucking go. Come on. Like hurry the fuck up. It's just different. It's a different feeling. And part of me likes it because I kind of like being under the radar. Like nobody gives a fuck about my fight. Nobody cares, whatever. But also like, I think the pressure of being in your hometown and having like everybody there that's, you sold this many tickets and you did all this. I think that, pushes, I feel like I do better with that, but I want the out of town experience. That's why my coaches got me that fight. They wanted me to go out there and fight a stud out of town.
I went to a CFFC fight in New Jersey this spring, and I watched the entire card. Good shit. Had a great time. And then at the end of that fight, I'm like cruising around the casino with my wife, getting some beers or whatever. And I recognize some of the fighters, fucking off eating pizza or whatever. And I'm just looking and I'm just like, I recognize these guys. Nobody else is even paying these guys any mind. I didn't go up and talk to them. Actually I did. I think I just said like, hey, good fight, man. And I just walked right past them. I didn't want to bother them, but I was just looking at it. I'm like, that would be kind of nice though. It's like, you fight and it's like, you know what, I can just kind of chill and I don't feel like I don't have all these like personal obligations I need to fulfill. Dude. I don't need to go and say hi to a bunch of people. Like I won my fight. I could just eat pizza and have a few beers and everyone's gonna leave me alone. And that's gotta be kind of cool.
It's almost like a fucking it's almost like a wedding. Like when I got married to my wife, you go around every table, you're like, hey, thanks for being there, whatever. It's literally kind of like that. You gotta like, you have everybody coming and rushing you and wants to talk to you about it. And you feel like obligated to sit there and talk to everybody for like 15, 20 minutes and make sure, you gotta make sure you talk to your sponsors. You gotta talk to all your friends, people that came there. And then you also have on top of it, everybody's trying to, like, at least with me, everybody's trying to get me fucked up. Everybody's like, here, take this shot. So I'm like talking to people as I'm drinking, as I'm trying to be like, oh yeah, thanks, man. And I love it. That's like one of my favorite things because the stress of the fight is over and you have that win and you're like, you're just, you're there with people you love and everything. That's great. But like, it's also kind of nice when you get done fighting and like the last one, we're like, hey, let's go get some food. You just leave. Nobody says anything to you. You just leave, go eat, hang out in the casino, whatever. I think that was pretty cool too.
I think there's something to be said for that. And, and it's not to say like one's worse than the other. I think it's one of those things where it's like listening to music, right? Sometimes you're in the mood for one thing and then, other times you're in the mood for something different. It's probably the same thing.
Yep.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that fight in particular, the LFA fight 142? So basically what ends up happening, they end up calling the fight literally because your opponent keeps kneeing you in the balls too much. That's why the fight ends up getting called. With that being said, the fight ends really weird. They call it, and then everyone's standing around like they don't know what the fuck to do. It's you and your opponent are standing center cage. Mike Kendall, I don't know where the hell he went. He's gone. And you're just kind of like waiting to see how long it takes people to like count to 30 or something like that, or not even. So like Oscar's talking to you, like what is Oscar like saying to you like after that fight?
Well, me and him, like what I liked about him is he's kind of like me. He's super respectful. Like when there was like super respectful, class act. Like the dude was super apologetic the whole time. Like this was happening. We actually like after the second nut shot, we were like having a full on like me, him, and the ref were like while we were sitting there like all talking to each other. I was like, hey man, do you have any kids? And I didn't hear what he said. I'm like, well, my wife, because I had my wife in my corner because one of my other coaches couldn't make it. I'm like, well, that's my wife over there and she wants to have kids, man. Like we got to stop doing this to each other, dude. And he's started laughing, and then the ref's like, yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to have kids after this. And we were all joking around, but after the fight, it was weird because they stopped it, and I wanted to keep going. I told them because I was like, how long do I have in the fight? And they're like, there was like 3 minutes left. I'm like, dude, give me the rest of the fight. Like, let me finish the fight. And they're like, no, the doctor wants to stop it. You look like you're in pain. I'm like, well, fuck, of course I'm in pain, dude. Like the fuck, like this is the third time. It actually, like, if you watch the fight, there was 4 nut shots. There's a picture of him like punting me in the balls off a kick, but it wasn't really his fault. It was my fault because I kind of like shot in as he was throwing the leg kick, so I kind of just caught it. But like I didn't say anything because I was in on a takedown. I'm like, well, I'm gonna just say fuck it. It wasn't that bad. But the other ones on the fence were they sucked. So like of course I'm in pain, but I thought they would give me the whole injury time, the last one, and then I could just finish the fight. Yeah. It wasn't like I mean, I don't know. I've never had that happen to me, so I didn't know how to like what they were planning on doing or how to, do any. I just knew I wanted to keep fighting, and they wouldn't let me. They are the ones that called it off, and then me and Oscar talked for a minute, but I had heard that they were gonna go to the scorecards and just judge the duration of the fight that had happened. So I was like, okay, that's fine, I guess, if that's what we're gonna do. I just didn't want him to get DQ'd. I don't want to win like that. Mm-hmm. I don't want anything like that to happen. So if it's gonna go to decision, whoever's gonna win, that's fine. But I mean, I thought the whole situation was kind of shitty to begin with, that I was being forced not to fight even because I was in pain. Like of course
it's fighting. Everyone's gonna be in pain.
Yeah. Winner. Like, they're like, man, yeah, they're like, you're sitting here like moaning and groaning. I'm like, you want me to kick you in the balls 3 times? And let me tell you how you feel after this. So
yeah, exactly.
That was the big thing, man. But when they read split decision, my heart dropped because I was like, wait, but that doesn't
okay. So that's
sense.
what I wanted to ask you about, because I've never seen. I was really confused. And I think you kind of explained it. You'd mentioned that they were going to go to a decision. I was a little surprised, and again, I'm not a ref, I'm not an official, I'm not a judge, so I don't know how it works. But like, it gets called, and they judged off of 3 rounds, like as if 3 rounds went by.
Exactly.
And the scores were, I have it written down: 29-27 for you, 29-28 for Gerardo, and then 29-27 for you. There was supposed to be a point deduction too. They took a point away from this guy. So like I could understand maybe 28-28. Like, yeah. like I could, like, if you like, sure, like that, okay, like that math adds up, but like with that point deduction,
yeah,
like that doesn't make like that ref is saying like he won every single round. Like that seemed a little kind of sus to me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there was no point in that fight where I didn't feel like I was in control. Yeah, there was parts where I definitely should have been doing more, but there was no point in that fight where I felt like I wasn't in control. Maybe when I slipped on the cage, and my coach thinks that the reason why somebody gave him the first round, there was a point in the fight where I slipped as I was trying to readjust where I was pushing him against the cage. I like slipped, and his coaches started screaming, "He's hurt!" And in my head, I'm like, "No, I'm fine," but like whatever, that's cool. So then I ended up getting up, and everything was good. But maybe that's what they thought, that the judge thought he dropped me or something. I don't know what they were looking at, but that was kind of weird.
Did you ever get an explanation? Did like the judges talk to you? Did the commission talk to you? Nothing?
No, nobody talked to me. I literally just like we were saying, if it was St. Louis, I definitely would have like went and probably asked about it. But the only person that like followed me around after that was the doctor. Yeah. And it was kind of like because in Minnesota, like you go down to the dressing room, there's like in the dressing room, there's a couple of bathrooms, and I went in there because I'm like, fuck, I gotta go see if I'm like peeing blood or something, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I go in there, and I hear like the door shut behind me and like lock, and I hear like a flashlight click, and I turn around, the doctor's right there. He's like, "All right, man, whip it out." Like, like,
yeah, they wanted to see like what are we working with here?
Yeah, what are we working with? Yeah, did your balls like implode or like,
yeah,
what's going on? But no, luckily everything's fine.
So you can procreate, is what you're saying?
I'm hoping. I'm just happy that everything's still intact and works.
Hey, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you, and I'm glad that there is not any permanent damage. Moving on, like you fought a really tough guy. Like your LFA fights, you fought Jet Shell and then Oscar Gerardo, 2 really, really tough guys. You're so nice. Like, why are they giving you like all these fucking savages that are really big, scary guys?
Dude.
Like, they're making you fight the toughest guys that I know of.
Yeah.
And you're going out there and you're not winning, but like you're winning really, really convincingly. And that's got to give you like a lot of like confidence, especially going into like the rest of this year. You just turned 30. I know we talked about like this is the time to like make your run, and you're showing
Yeah.
that you have what it takes to like beat some of the top guys in the Midwest. Like when you kind of like reflect back on those two fights and like kind of where you are
Yeah.
now, how does that make you feel? Like there's a lot to be happy about.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Like I think that's a big thing. And what I had to learn when you turn pro is a lot of guys don't want to fight you. Like a lot of guys don't want to get in there and do it. Like as an amateur, you listen to your coach, and your coach is like, hey, we're gonna fight this guy, like this is gonna happen. And you're like, okay, cool. And you fight. It doesn't really matter who it is or what's going on. You just do it. But as a pro, what I've learned turning pro is it's so hard to get fights. And like you have to be able to sell tickets. You got to be able to market yourself. Some of these guys that are 22, 21 that have like the opportunity to like build their records and pad themselves, they're going to stay the fuck away from you. Like they're not going to, they don't want any part of it. So there's that. And so I think the big thing is if we're going to do something with this, I got to do it now. And I've been training long enough to where these guys that are good fighters, I'm able to, I might get hit or get hurt or, whatever happens. But I feel like I've trained with such high level people, and I've seen it all after 10 years, like I've seen it all. So it's kind of like, I should be able to deal with that. And if I can't, then I shouldn't be fighting, especially, like you said, being 30 years old, I don't have the time to build my record or anything. I just got to fight whoever the fuck they give me, and whoever's gonna get me to that next level and get me noticed, I got to just get in there and fight.
Is it harder at 125 pounds to be active? Obviously, that's you look at the UFC, I use that as like a benchmark. It's like, I see a lot of opportunity there. You get outside that top 5 of the division, you start seeing like, there are guys right now that are in LFA, case in point, Charles Johnson, great, fellow St. Louis guy,
St. Louis guy,
right?
yeah.
I looked at him. I got on to Charles about a year and a half ago when he was right before he fought the Japanese dude. That was in St. Louis, by the way, where he fought. He's from Timo Yama.
Yeah, Oyama. I thought that was in Ohio or Oklahoma or something like that. I don't know.
It could have been, but he fought a Japanese guy. I forgot his name.
Yeah.
He's a really talented guy from Timo Yama in California. Great fight. But I looked at Charles. I'm like, this guy's good enough to like be in the UFC like 100%, and he can fight rank competition right away. And then a year later, sure shit, it happened. They call him up. Bam, he gets in there. I look around and I'm like, okay, wow, there's still quite a few like 125ers I'm seeing that are really, really good.
Yeah.
But you also look and it's like that activity isn't quite as there compared to some of the other classes. And I have a theory for that. And it's like, because you get a fight that drops off, who are you going to fucking call on 2 weeks? Like, yo, can you make 125?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, that's definitely a thing. Like for you and your size, I would imagine like a normal weight for you is probably like 150 pounds. So you're cutting at, and I'm being conservative. Like it's at least it's got to be 100. It's got to be a 25-pound weight cut for you at least.
Probably I walk around at like 157 usually.
Sure. Yeah, that would be. So I can see that.
Badass. I've gotten up to like 65, 66 before, but that's like if I'm just doing nothing but like eating donuts all day,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
57 is usually when I start. Luckily, I have a nutritionist that we do the whole thing. The full 8-week. I'm able to eat as much as like eat and be comfortable and have the energy for training and cut the weight. Really, it's pretty easy to make 25, to be honest. But if you were to tell me like, okay, from 157, we want you to take this short notice fight in like 3 weeks, like, no.
Yeah,
like,
it ain't happening.
Better move that weight class up. Do you want me to do that? I can't make 25. It's got to be like a 8-week thing.
Yeah, you have to have at least 2 months. Like I'm thinking to myself, 2 to 3 months is probably like that sweet spot is what it takes in order to be able to even entertain something like that.
exactly. Yeah. I have teammates that one of my teammates, he's a flyweight too. He cuts from like 166. And I mean, he
Jesus, that's
from
a cut.
fight week, he's not even in the 140s yet. You know, it's just, it's insane. And
Yeah, and Joe Rogan talks about the weight cuts and stuff all the time. I think it's kind of stupid, personally, because it's
yeah,
like, hey, like let's dehydrate ourselves 24 hours before we're supposed to fight, and then let's like try to kill each other in the cage the next day. Like that
but
makes no sense
crazy
to
to
me.
think about because if 4 weeks into camp, I'm walking around at like 145. I couldn't imagine fighting at 145 some of these fucking guys.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. So you kind of look at it like if everybody stopped doing it, yeah, there could be a thing there, but like nobody's gonna do that. Everybody's gonna keep cutting, 30, 40 pounds.
Because bigger guys are always going to want to try to like figure a way to like have an advantage. And hey, it's prize fighting. If you're not trying to get an advantage, you're doing something wrong. Like it's a
Exactly.
cutthroat, ruthless game. Like we're not
Yep.
playing basketball. Like we're fighting. Like there's a
Yep.
difference there.
There's money on the line. You got to do what you got to do. So I mean, and if you can make it easy, and you can do, or you can fight at your natural weight, like more power to you. But me at 5'5", I
Yeah.
have my training partner Sean Woodson. He fights in the UFC. He's a 145er. He fights at 145. He cuts from like 170,
180.
180. But and
Yeah.
he's 6'4" or some shit like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Could you
Even
imagine like?
even 180 pounds is pretty skinny for a guy that tall.
Yeah. So it's crazy, man. That's why I just, got to do what you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do. Indeed. Talk to me like kind of like what's next for you. Here we are. It's Halloween roughly. Still got a couple more months in 2022. Is the plan to get back into the cage before the end of this calendar year, or are you looking at maybe sometime in 2023 to get back in action?
Yeah, so we're focused on January. We were
Mm-hmm.
looking at December, and there was talks of that, but we there to get an opponent that quick, it wasn't looking like it was going to happen. So I kind of brought it up to my coaches. I was like, well, let's just do early January. That way, you know, I guess from the first week of January, that would give me like 10 weeks from now. So, I mean, I'll be in peak shape by then. So, and then hopefully I'm going to really try this time to just not pig out or like do anything. I'm going to try. My coach tells me that every time. He's like, you got to stop doing that because you balloon back up, you take like a week off. And yeah, like cardio wise, I'm still fine, but the weight, you start eating like shit, your body feels like shit. And I'm going to try to just fight and then just stay maybe at 145 and, try a short notice thing. Cause I've never really done that before. Maybe if I could stay at 145, I could take short notice fights.
Yeah, I think it would just probably depend on like who you're fighting against, like when is it, where is it, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Like when you look at the UFC, I have it pulled up right now. I have my own Jamie. I really desperately need a Jamie, maybe one day.
Dude.
But I'm looking at the top 15, and it's like you got Tim Elliott around, like he's been around for a really long time. Manel Kopp, Jeffrey Molina, Muhammad Mokayev, like Matthias Nicolau. Like there's some really, really good guys that are like in that top 15, but then there are also like you start going further down, the guys that are maybe like right on the cusp of it. You got to be looking at those guys every single time there's a flyweight bout on TV. You got to be looking at it like this guy's not better than me. He's just got an opportunity that I haven't gotten yet.
Yep. That's a big thing that I've been trying to do is just anytime, like even on Fight Pass, if there's a good flyweight fight, like main event or something like that, I'm always watching it just to, because these are the guys that you potentially get in there with. I will say it is crazy how good that Makiev guy is. I mean, it's insane, and I think that was Charles's biggest, like they're like, okay, well, you want to get in the UFC so bad. Well, here's this guy. We'll give you a full camp. Like nobody in the UFC wants to fight him, and I mean, that guy is nasty. And Charles did great against him. I mean, he just got out wrestled. That was all it
Yeah.
is. And it's just like Charles was able to show that he's like, he's human. He can be, he can make mistakes just like anybody else. So I just try to stay plugged in with, that division and everything going on.
Yeah, we're talking about like one of the best fighters in the world in Charles Johnson. I think he, he's in his early 30s. He's in his athletic prime, but it goes to show like in other weight classes, like, if you're 32, 33 years old and you're a welterweight, you're trying to get in, it's probably not going to happen. You're probably going to have to go to Bellator or PFL. But
Yeah.
there's like not a lot of guys that can make 125 pounds. Like that's a tough weight. I don't care how big you are. Like no man walks around at 125 pounds. It doesn't exist, right? So
No.
so that's a weight class where it's like, hey, are you good? Can you fight? Can you make the weight? And does your
Yeah.
record look good? And if all those things check out, chances are you're going to get an opportunity, especially in the UFC, because we have all these cards that they're cranking out every week. There's a card. It's only going to be a matter of time before I see you at that next level.
Yes, sir.
One person we aren't going to see at the next level. I have to talk about it. You and I were talking about this shit. I have to censor myself a little bit. So I'm not going to say who this guy is. I'm not going to say on the recording this guy's name. I think that would be unsporting. But there is a fighter on Tapology. He's got a 16 and 106 record. We'll call him Ronald McFistface. That's what we'll go with. So I have to ask you, when I showed you this guy's Tapology profile, what was going through your mind? Like you thought I was punking you, didn't you?
Yeah, I really did. I've never heard of a record like that, but I can tell you there's one St. Louis-based promotion that would be very excited to put him in there with their ticket sellers. And I just can't believe that somebody would want to keep fighting after with that many. Like, I mean, at some point it becomes the commissions thing, like we had this problem when I was turning pro. There was a couple guys that, trying to find me a pro debut, and there was a couple guys that were wanted to go pro to fight me, but the commission, and they had winning records as amateurs, and the commission wouldn't let them do it. But then you get these guys like, 200 something losses, and the commission for some reason is letting them fight. I mean, that is just insane.
So I'm looking at it like I'm really trying to like look at it and from a serious perspective, because I look at this guy's record on paper, and this is a real guy. Like
Yeah.
I know some of his.
I
opponents.
looked him up the other day too. I was looking him up. I was like, let me see the footage.
Like this is a real fighter, and for real, his record is 16 and 106. So when he goes in the octagon, that they say like looking for his 17th pro fight. That shit checks out. If I'm just a random in the stands, I'm like, oh, okay, he's going for his 17th fight. Okay,
right? Yeah, because they got to make it look professional.
But we're not going to talk about like we're not printing off the other half of that guy's record. And I'm looking at it, and I'm trying to like honestly say to myself, what is it about fighting that has this guy like so locked into it? Like this guy is like fighting like it's a 9-to-5 job. Quite honestly, he's out there every like month. This guy like is out there. Man. Like
hustle. Like I wonder how much. What I want to know is like how much he asks for. I want to know like when they hit him up and they're like, "Hey, do you want to be on this card against our number one, whatever."
Hey, we're gonna put you up against fucking Bruce Banner, like
7-0, 7-0, whatever. I wonder if he's like, okay, you got to pay me then, and they're like, okay, and then they come back to him with a number. What if they pay him like really good? I mean, fuck, like that's you never. But then again, half that fucking money goes back to taxes anyway. So like,
exactly,
that's why he fights so much.
Yeah, like just looking at it, in 2022 he fought that's a boxing fight. 1, 2, 3, 4 different times, and it looks like he got finished in every fight. I'm just thinking to myself, like, honestly, like I understand doing it because you love it. Like I get that, and one could only presume that's the case. But like when you have lost 6, 7 fights in a row and you're getting finished every single time, like at what point does like somebody in your gym like pull you to the side and be like, yo, like dude, like this might not be the right thing for you, man. Like
he probably is not in a gym. He probably trains in I'm guessing he probably has a bag downstairs that he goes to town.
Mom's basement MMA, baby.
Yeah. Like he's like, I'm ready to go, man. You know, like I guarantee you that. I want to know, is it how many, like, what promotion uses him the most? Is it a different ones on every single one, or
Pretty. So he's been like kind of through all of them, honestly.
he's been through all of them?
Like, yeah, he's kind of like a, the Jenna Jameson of fighters, man. He's been
Oh,
everywhere, baby.
yeah, he's been everywhere.
Like, could you imagine though? Okay, like you and I were talking about this. I put this guy, pretend this guy was a flyweight, and it's like, okay, 16 and 106. Like,
Yeah.
Dan, like you got to fight this fucking guy. Like, would you be nervous fighting him? Because I fucking
Oh,
would be. Dude,
terrified.
I'd be terrified of this guy.
Terrified. We had this conversation before where it was like, I had this one kid that was like, when I was an amateur, that they were like, are you going to fight this guy? And he was horrible at getting his last minute replacement, whatever. And I was so fucking scared because I'm like, if I lose to this guy, or like anything could happen. If I lose to this guy, I mean, could you imagine the shit I'm going to get for this? You know, it's so you got to think of it like that. Like, I would probably be more nervous fighting someone that sucked that bad than fighting someone who's like undefeated or, whatever.
Exactly, because you fight a guy like Oscar Gerardo, it doesn't go your way, and it's like, oh, okay, that guy's good as shit. Okay, whatever. It says nothing about you as a fighter. You fight Kai Kara France, it doesn't work out. Okay, whatever. Exactly. You fight Fisty McFistface and it doesn't work out. Holy shit!
It's time to start reconsidering your career options.
I mean, think about like mentally, like what that would take coming back from something like that. Like, holy shit, dude, the worst guy ever beat me. Like, like that. Dude, that is like a soul crushing event, possibly right there. Losing.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, my coaches say this with anybody with. When we were looking for the debut, it was like there was a couple guys that wanted to fight, and you were like 2 and 5, something like that. And we were looking at, they're like, hey, well, if you lose this guy, you're not fucking welcome back at the gym. So there's that. So at least when I fight now, I'm fighting these prospects and stuff. I'm like, all right, well,
there's pressure, but it's not like. Yeah, but there's like another way out of it. There's like you can see the other side. Like, okay, this shit doesn't work out. All right, like I can like my fob will still work. I'll still get in the gym.
Exactly. I could still train here and not get kicked out of the gym. So, or hear about it every single day, because my coaches would be like that. They would give me shit for that until the day I left their gym. If I lost to a guy like that.
So the last time he won, this fighter that we're talking about, it actually wasn't that long ago. It was 2021. And he choked out a guy in 49 seconds. So occasionally he does crazy shit, and that's even more terrifying.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Like if you're that guy that when you fight him, he just pulls it out of his ass. That's scary,
dude. That is absolutely terrifying.
What weight class is he again?
I think he's a welterweight. Yeah, he's a welterweight. I have him up. I'm looking at him right now.
Stay away from flyweight, man. I don't want any part of
that. Dude, you don't want any part of this guy, man. Like there was I didn't play, like I was too small at the time. I was like really small, like in high school. But there was this team that there's this football team that my high school played against, and they hadn't won a game in like 20 fucking years. So, and we played them twice a year. So it's like every single time they're on the calendar, it's like, fuck, dude, it's not going to be us. Like, right. So there's like this, like, you have to like jack yourself up. Like, dude, that was the fucking Super Bowl. It didn't matter how shitty your year was going. It didn't matter like how many people got hurt. It's like, dude, we can't fucking lose to these guys. Right. Yep. And I'd imagine like it's got to be like that when you fight this guy. It's got to be like that.
For sure. That would be the only way you could look at it. Like I said, there's no promotions personally that would love to throw him on there, but that's crazy. I think the commission needs to stop that guy, because he's not going to stop himself, obviously.
Yeah, like
all gas, no brakes for that guy.
That guy just he loses a fight, he just drives home at the end of it like, oh well, yeah, how's work, honey? I got choked out in the first round, whatever.
He probably like lines up 5 or 6, and then he's like, that's his training, is just actual fighting. Like
maybe, like, do you think, like, but if he wins though, Like when he wins, and it doesn't happen often, but when he wins, do you think it's like coke off strippers' asses and like all
Oh, dude,
kinds of?
yeah, I mean, for sure,
It's
for
got to
sure,
be right.
yeah.
I
I
mean,
would I mean, that be like winning the Super Bowl when he wins. I definitely hang out with him. I'd hang out with him for sure off of a win.
I just want to like talk to this guy, like, yo, seriously, like,
You
and
should
I'm
have,
not.
oh, you should,
I'm thinking
oh,
about it. I'm
you should.
thinking about it, but it's like one of those things where it's like, honestly, I wouldn't. Honest to God, I would not even talk to him about MMA. Really, I would want to just know about him, like what kind of guy he is, because it's like, okay, you're doing something. Like, I don't know if this guy's crazy or if he's really an inspiration. Like, and I mean that like with like as much
Oh,
sincerity,
100%.
right? Because it's like you don't have the talent. You know that you are not going to like go into that next level. But like you go out there and you're doing it every single time. And then there are assholes like me that look at his record and laugh. But like you know that and you know it's not a factor for you. You kind of rub it off, like you shrug that off and you go about your business. And it's like, dude, like you're getting out of bed, you're making this conscious decision. And this guy's no spring chicken. Like he's like my age, right? And it's like you're going out there, you're putting your body on the line. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah,
Like we're not talking about like playing basketball and losing. Like we're talking about like going into a cage with like young killers and getting
yeah,
like knocked out, like getting like losing consciousness in the cage. That's what we're talking about. And you're going out there and doing it. Like, why the fuck are you doing this? Like,
yeah.
I legitimately want to know that. I
I
really want to
that's
know.
why you need to put them on here. But I've also on the flip side of that, like I've met some delusional people in my life that they with people like that are like, I am the best in the fucking world, like all that stuff. So it would be super interesting to have them on. I would watch that episode. I would want to watch it as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think I might have to hit him up, but I'd have to like
Dude,
really preface it because I would imagine, like, think about it though. This guy probably gets fucked with all the time. Like,
yeah,
there's so many assholes that probably slide into that guy's DMs, like,
yeah,
trying to fuck with him. And so he might not even be on Instagram anymore. Like, he might have a
yeah.
ghost
Hear
account,
that.
and I wouldn't blame him for that. But that might be something to kind of look into. I wanted to like ask you though, really quickly, like when you think about just the fighting landscape, and I'm bringing it back to like your experiences like with fighting, like if you had to like talk to a guy that's like 20, 21, 22, some young kid who's just trying to like look at MMA, and they maybe have a few AMI fights under their belt, and they're like looking to like get at your level, because not everybody can fight for LFA. No, not everybody is like fighting at the level that you're fighting at, but they want to get there one day. Like, what are the things that they need to do to like get to have some of the opportunities that you've had?
Um, a few things. I would say one kind of like what we've touched on before, which is when you're an amateur, you need to get all the experience you can. You need to be amateur for a while. Like I've been seeing some of these guys that'll have like 2 or 3 amateur fights and then they go pro, like after 2 years of training. And then I mean, it's just like, no, you need to be pro for or amateur for a while. You need to fight. Go on Tapology, go down the list of guys, the top guys in your area, and pick fights with them. Try to get fights with them. Try to get promoters to put those fights on because you need that experience. Also, I would say really before you join a gym, look at the credentials of the gym and like look at the people that have come out of there. Look at the coaching staff and everything like that because you see some of these guys that they go into places that they're not real gyms. They don't have the best quality coaching and the whatever coach of the gym, and I've seen this happen multiple times, they train for like 3 months and they're like, all right, time for you to fight, and then they get their asses kicked, and then they're wondering why they're not winning, and then they quit or stuff like that. I would say definitely try to find a gym, one that suits you, two that has the credentials and has the guys there that are your size that you can train with. If you're not like a borderline midget like me. Luckily, we have like 5 or 6 of us at the gym, little angry dwarves that run around and punch each other in the face. A lot of people these days are talking about sparring and about how sparring's like not the best thing to do, and for head trauma, whatever. I say I'm kind of old school. I love spar. I spar like at least 2-3 times a week. It just kind of depends on, you should probably have less hard sparring. But if you're in the gym and you're not getting hit, you're landing, you're not getting hit, and you're learning from it. Like I say, spars, technical sparring, light sparring, as much as you can. Honestly, that's where you learn the most. At least for me, that's where I learn the most. Learn where I'm weakest at, where I'm best at. I would say those are probably my biggest things for someone starting out. And trust your coaches. Like, don't go into it thinking like I'm the shit, like whatever. I don't have to listen to these people. I know a lot of people also that I've trained with in the past that they don't listen to anybody. They do what they want to do, and that's their way and whatever. And it doesn't really usually work out for them the best way,
Yeah.
So I would say just trust the process and trust your coaches.
I think it's like one of those things, and like, and if there's one thing I have in common with a fighter, it's like, or with anyone that does what you do, it would be like this, like, hey, I'm healthily delusional myself. You have to be.
Yeah.
Like there's something I like to call like healthy delusion, right? Because it's like if you don't go into that cage thinking that you're the best at what you do, and like, no, that guy right there, I'm gonna fuck that guy up. Like if you don't think that, like that, this might not be the right thing for you. Like you have to have that primal instinct. Like you have to be able to like take yourself to that level. Like like if Brandon Moreno is like standing across the cage from you, you have to think that way. It's like, yeah, I know this guy's good, but I'm gonna fuck this guy up. And you have to believe it. Nobody else might believe that, but you have to. Right. So like going into the cage, right? Everyone with one of these is gonna blow you up, be like, oh, you fucking suck. You're minus like 8 million against Brandon Moreno. He's gonna fuck you up. You have to look at that and laugh and know, like, no, like you guys are all on fucking crack. I know something you don't know. Fuck all of you. Like you have to like get into that place really, really quickly. Like you have to be able to like do that. Like I don't know of a fighter that will like tell you like, yeah, I took that fight, but I knew I was going to get crushed. It's like, this might not be the right sport for you then, buddy.
Yeah. It's definitely a big part of it. You have to be able to, you have to believe that, you have to believe that you can do well against people like that. You have to. And especially someone like that, that's, been the champion, stuff like that. You have to go in with that mindset. You have to be like, man, I know that you're, where you're at, but like, I'm going to do my fucking best, and my fucking best beats you. That's kind of how I always look at it. Like my dad tells me that all the time before I go out there and fight. He's like, we're not worried about, beating this guy. We're worried about performing to the best of your abilities. Cause if you do that, this fight's no problem. Like nobody's an issue then, so that's the way I try to look at it.
If you are listening to this and you're also thinking about starting up an MMA podcast, let me tell you, you also have to be delusional, because it's fucking like you really do. I'm just throwing that out there. Like you have to be pretty delusional. Yeah, that's all I'll say. That's a topic for another day. Dan, before I let you go, I know that you have a lot of people that are at your gym. So why don't you shout out to me? I always like doing this. Who are a couple amateurs in your gym that are fucking killers that people need to know about? And why don't you talk to me about, if there are people that support you, if you have sponsors you need to talk about, why don't we talk about the people that need talking about before I let you go?
Yeah. So, I train at a gym, Wolves Den Training Center. It's out in O'Fallon, Missouri. We have a lot of guys that will be at that level soon. We've got a kid, Justin Richter. He's number 1 in Kansas City and Missouri right now at 125. The kid's a fucking killer. The thing about him is that when he started with us, I never took it easy on that kid. I smashed him every single day in the gym. Never once was like, oh, I'm going to go light with him. Like, no. And it's really worked out. We got Sam Pananes, Jared Medley. Who are these other little small guys? Raja Singh. We got a lot of, our amateur team is legit. Like, we have guys like this kid Aaron Lake. He's a 145er. He gives Sean Woodson. He gives Sean most of his rounds. I mean, Sean likes training with him the most. And I mean, Sean's in the UFC, so Aaron's getting that, the highest level striking in MMA work that he and he's gonna be a fucking killer too. I hate sparring with that guy. That guy is so good. But yeah, we got a lot of great guys. Also, my strength coach Matt Owen, he's great. I really feel like when I turned pro, that's the one thing that I was missing, was a strength and conditioning coach. And I think that's another thing. If I had to say to younger guys starting out, like that you want to get into, you want to be a professional fighter, you need a strength and conditioning coach. Because from where I was to where I'm at now, it's ridiculous. Also, my nutritionist, Terry Brents, also Gut Uppercut on Instagram. Cats Botanicals. It's like this CBD kratom company that sponsors me. They've been sponsoring me since I was an amateur. They're fucking amazing. They have the best CBD products. And we're going to be opening or starting like a new company with that. So that'll be interesting. Look out for that. 100% Violence clothing, HK gloves. I don't know. That's basically it.
All right. Well, always looking forward to see you go out there again. I hope that your next fight doesn't go the way that your last one did. But like I don't
me and you both, my man.
But thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate your time, and I look forward to having you back on the show after you win again.
All right, man. Well, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.